It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Magical day to all. Welcome to Divas That Care Network. I am Joyce Benning, and I will be your host for this absolutely invigorating, robust lifestyle show. I would like to thank each of our listeners that have tuned in live today and the ones that will be listening to the recording on the numerous different podcast platforms. I am so very grateful and thankful for each and every one of you. And you are all in for one amazing show today, as I have with me my incredible returning diva, Gia Raquel, and her and I are going to chat about resolutions and recovery. Oh my, will this ever be a great show? So with that, Gia, would you please introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Absolutely, Joyce. Thank you so much for having me back, and it's nothing but an honor and a pleasure to be here and speak with you every single time. So I am beyond grateful to have these continued conversations with you, and hopefully some others might be able to benefit from it as well. And thank you for the kind introduction. My name is Gia Raquel, and I'm owner of Airs Above Yoga, and that is basically my way of helping others with their wellness journey, be it through yoga, through Reiki, through crystal healing and support, meditation, any of those modalities, and all of them can be very beneficial to people that are just traveling on this beautiful journey that we call life.
Oh, wow. How you are of service to others in so many different ways. And I love how you said on their wellness journey, because aren't we all on that journey to be as healthy as we can be? So, that is just awesome. How would you like to start to share with our listeners today about resolutions and recovery?
So this is going to be an ongoing for me, and I think for everybody, because I think there are a couple things that are definite and finite in this world, and that is the idea of setbacks. So whether you're, like, at some point in your life you're going to, I don't like to use the word suffer, but you're going to suffer something, whether you catch a cold, whether you twist an ankle, something as you go through your existence is going to happen that's kind of going to push you back. It's going to offer a setback or a reset, however you want to kind of frame it. And it comes to how do we deal with those things. And I think we've touched a little bit on this in the past. And part of what going hand in hand with coming back from something like an illness or an injury, and I specialize a lot with yoga and injury, I won't say rehabilitation. I'm not a physical therapist, but, people that are trying to come back and get stronger after, let's say, a surgery or some sort of soft tissue damage. And it's not just that. You can come back from an illness. I'm recovering from a little bronchial thing. So there are all sorts of things that come up in life. And, we have the best laid intentions, and then something happens and trips us up, and what do we do then? And so the resolution aspect of that for me, and I'm going to kind of make a little joke here, is I've never been a fan of New Year's resolutions. Now, they are wonderful for some people, and I think that if people want to use, the countdown to the next year as that time to reevaluate, reassess, and kind of quote unquote do better or make themselves better, then I admire them for that. But for me, I've always thought of picking that time as somewhat arbitrary, and that your journey should be like rolling admissions for an education program. You should always be able to reinvigorate, reignite, reinvent yourself, your goals, whatever it is that you seem to be. And so I know that we track on that New Year's resolution obsession, but I like to think that even, let's say, what's today, June 17th, middle of the year, you could absolutely make a choice and make a decision to upgrade your wellness routine or upgrade your, physical, mental, emotional well-being. So I like to think that it's kind of an ongoing activity through your existence in life, is that it's doesn't have to be every New Year. It can be anytime you experience a setback, anytime you are facing something that brings you back to a level that you thought you had already exceeded or passed. Do you have any questions about kind of the trajectory of where I want to go with our conversation today, if I may?
I love it, because to me what the thought came to my mind was we are always continuing to better ourselves every day. And whether you're setting, to me, you can set a resolution every day if that's what you want to do something a little better today, maybe than you did yesterday. And it doesn't have to be anything big. To me, it's like, okay, you're thinking to yourself, I need to get a little more in tune with my heart space. So I'm going to take a few moments today to do that, or to go out in nature for a few moments. It can be something so small that you will be amazed, to me, how much it helps to better yourself each and every day.
And it is. We've talked in the past about setting intentions, the clarity of intentions, creating intentions for yourself, and that all goes hand in hand with bettering yourself. But I find for me, and I think a lot of people, is when that outside force, and sometimes it can be internal too. You are, after all, you can be your own worst enemy. But when something outside of our control happens, and we view it as happening to us, or like, for example, I got sick last week, right? Something that occurs that you didn't plan for, that just throws a monkey wrench in your plans. And, how you then say, okay, well, now all my plans have to change, and now I have to, they say if you have your health, you have nothing. That is true, right? If you don't have your health, you really don't. You're kind of dead in the water. So, I think it's very important for people to maintain a balance. And, right, we talk about yoga, we talk about balance a lot in life. And I can be a little bit type A. I know a lot of people have that in them. And I think there's a big distinction between go, go, go and rest, rest, rest. And I think that oftentimes, whomever it is that you set your intention for, whether it's God, the universe, whoever it is for you, if you don't check yourself, the universe will wind up checking you for yourself, right? So I think that it's, when we have that intention of mindfulness and we start to set those daily intentions, and we become more cognizant, and we can become more aware of listening to our body's needs, and being able to hopefully maybe not have the universe check ourselves for ourselves. And to that end, one of the things that I wanted to kind of touch on is, I've gone through a little bit of, I'll say, a wellness check. Again, one of those things that occurred that was, I'll say, somewhat outside of my control to a certain extent. And it was back in September. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is basically hypothyroidism for anyone who is not familiar. And so for me, and I'm going to be as brief on this because it's not really what I want to focus on, but it just kind of gives a little bit of a picture. I've always been preferable to being vegetarian, basically because I am big on loving my animals and all animals and the well-being of all animals. Unfortunately, if you do some research, and I won't bore you with the details, but if you do some research into some sort of autoimmune situations, such as hypothyroidism, you will find out that all of the substitutes for protein in a vegetarian-based diet can be inflammatory to the body. So I have had to do a complete overhaul within the past 6 months of my entire diet, from very legume-heavy and dairy-heavy to a complete elimination of all of those, and a reintroduction of a significant amount of meat, which gives me then that kind of guilt, that overwhelming sense of guilt. But it is something that I need to accept and deal with because my body needs it to be that way, unfortunately. But this is kind of one of, when I say recovery and resolutions, these are the types of things that go hand in hand with each other. So I've been trying to recover my body from a process that will more than likely be ongoing for me. It's not going to be a one-and-done situation. And in that, unfortunately, despite my best resolution to be vegetarian, I now have to accept that something outward has changed what I thought was a positive resolution for me into a resolution that I now have to come to terms with, and how that can be a conflict. And this is just an example. So have you ever had anything like that, Joyce, where you've had to make a change, adapt in a way that you felt came from outside of you, but that even if you didn't want it, it was still for your best good in some way, form, or fashion?
Oh, yes. One of the things that comes to my mind, and it happened here probably 2 or 3 months ago, I had a little incident where the dogs were running and having a good time, and about 4 of them hit me in the back of the leg and threw me up in the air, and I came down on my shoulder.
Oh, no.
And, yeah, it was sore. It was painful. But, I had to readjust to things that I had been doing. I had to think to myself, okay, what is this trying to show me? And I really came to, from my heart, I felt it was trying to tell me I need to slow down and take some time for myself, because I did have to slow down and take care of myself, where in this busy world we have all these to-do lists that we think we got to get done, that we so many times forget about ourselves. And to me, when our cup is not full, we cannot fill others. So it was an awakening to me that, okay, readjust your lifestyle to make some time for yourself. And so, yeah, it's in a little different aspect, but it taught me how to really fill my cup too, rather than always trying to fill someone else's. So.
Absolutely. And it's, especially, and I know we've touched on this before, especially as women, as, inherent, I'll say, genetic caretakers, right? We have a propensity to always put, our children, our partners, our families, our animals, our everything that we view as in our charge ahead of ourselves. And I'll call myself guilty of it too. And it comes from such a beautiful, wonderful place. But, also, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't very well take care of others, just as you said. And so it becomes so important. And these realizations, I think, again, it always circles back to mindfulness, and it always circles back to balance, because it does take discipline. And I think that that's something that's often, as yoga teachers, and again, I will refer to the word balance being huge in all this, we come from a very soft, receptive, forgiving space. You meet yourself where you are. And that is huge in yoga, and it's a fundamental belief that I carry through my life for myself and for others. Meet people where they are. You can't force anyone to be different. You can't force anyone to want to change. You can't force anyone to want to be better. There are some people that don't want to be better. So you have to meet everyone where they are, or you're not going to get anywhere with any other individual, and especially with yourself. But there also comes an element, and as you said, it can be very small, and I think that is key, but there comes an element of discipline. And even if you're meeting yourself where you are, yes, you have to forgive yourself for messing up, because anytime you try to set a resolution to begin a process of change for yourself, you will inevitably have days of failure, backslides, and it could even be just viewed failure. You will have these days where it won't go right, where something will happen. Pardon me. See, there it is. You'll have those, again, those setbacks, and you can recover from them. But you have to forgive yourself. But you also have to maintain a sense of discipline, because there will become a time where there is a fine line between forgiveness and indulgence. And only you are going to be able to hold yourself accountable for that. So the way that I like to look at it is, again, you have to accept where you are on the day, right? I had made a resolution that I was going to keep, I was going to start going to spin class multiple times a week, and I was going to do all of these things. And I went to a few classes, and I, boom, came down with some sort of bronchial situation. Pardon me. And so I haven't been able to go to spin. And I have to accept that, right? It's just a very simple, silly kind of example. But it's one of those things, what can I do? So that habit, that routine, that intention to do better, what can you do? Well, I can take myself onto my yoga mat. That I can do. And I think one of the reasons that I fell in love with yoga the way that I did is even with you and your shoulder injury, even with when you're ill, no matter what, you can always go onto your mat. We always say in yoga that if you are breathing and you're on your mat, you are practicing yoga. So if you can do nothing, you can still set an intention. You can still meditate. You can still do yoga. There is always something that if you can't do the lofty goal that you set out for, you can still maintain the discipline of doing something.
Yes. Oh, how true that is. And what comes to my mind as you said that, even though you set a goal to maybe do more, and it didn't happen like you thought it should, I always hear, don't be so hard on yourself. Rather look at what you accomplished rather than taking it on to the negative side and say, well, I didn't get this done because that's what I wanted to accomplish. Rather look at what you did accomplish and praise yourself. We have to sometimes just pat ourselves on the back, too, when we accomplish part of the resolution or what we did accomplish. Be happy for it. And like you said, if you can't do anything but just sit on your mat and breathe, you accomplished that much. So to me, it's you're recovering and maybe not in the way that you had hoped to. It's just like my shoulder injury. Yeah, I would have liked to have it healed by the next day. Well, that wasn't going to happen. It was going to take some time. So I just had to accept that and maybe rearrange the way I did things and realize that I have to give myself some time too. And just like with you being sick, it's just knowing that you have to take that time. So yeah, that was what came to my mind when you said that about setting the goals. So that's my feedback on it.
No, and it's great. It's great feedback, Joyce. And, that's why I said there's always going to be something, whether it's your shoulder injury, whether it's, the bronchial situation that I have going on. No matter what it is, it could be a week, it could be ongoing, it could be like you find out you have some sort of underlying condition like I did back in September, and you have to reevaluate and readjust everything that you thought you were doing right. I thought I was being super healthy not eating meat. It wasn't healthy for my body, and everybody's different. Some people can do great as vegans and vegetarians, and I fundamentally cheer them on because that's what I'd prefer to be. But unfortunately for my body and for other people who have that type of condition, pardon me, they will not do well with some of those grain-based products. So everybody is different, right? And everybody needs to, again, meet themselves where they are. And there are lots of tools that you can use. And, we talked the last time a little bit about options for overwhelm. And ironically enough, a lot of those mimic the similar options for the idea of recovering from something and setting those resolutions to implement into your recovery. So your recovery, no matter what it is, whether it's short-term, long-term, ongoing, it's not going to be a straight line, right? It's going to be an up and down, no matter what. It's going to have good days. It's going to have bad days, just like life, just like most things. Work, everything, relationships, they're not a straight line. All of those things have ups and downs. They have good and they have bad. And you always are facing the reality of the situation no matter what it is. And how do you confront that from a supported place? And the best tools that I found, like I said, are a little bit similar. So we're talking again about grounding. We're talking about getting into our bodies. We're talking about listening to our bodies. And we're talking about ways to help that. And if you can get onto your mat and you can practice a little bit of restorative yoga. And so we're talking about literally whether you're, again, shoulder recovery, cold or flu, whatever it is, laying on your mat. If you can be in child's pose, lay in child's pose. If you need to be in Shavasana, lay in Shavasana. If you want and you can, if you're feeling better, be a proud warrior 1, be a proud warrior 2. All of these very strong and determined poses. They will help you, just that practice, because yoga is a practice, life is a practice of, okay, well, I'm not going to make it to the gym today, or, oh, my shoulder is injured, so I'm not going to be able to, lift a bale of hay, because I know you have your horses raised. I'm sure you're taking care of them. So what am I going to do? All right, I'm gonna cut the twine and I'm going to carry a couple flakes. All right, I can't make it to the gym. I happen to be a yoga teacher. I'm going to go into the studio I have in my home, and I'm going to do a couple of yoga postures that I can do, because I'm going to continue the discipline for the resolution that I set for myself, despite the fact that I am now coming from a place of recovery. And
that is so well said.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, please, go ahead. What were you going to say?
That is so well said. I just love that, how you explained that, because it is so true. It touched my heart with the bale of hay, because that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did with a bag of feed. I just opened it and scooped out what I needed and bucketed it to where I needed to go, rather than take the whole 50-pound bag at one time. So it's adjusting to that resolution of doing it and during that recovery. So, that was just beautiful. You just touched me.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, and, it's humbling, right? It's a humbling experience no matter what, whether it's an injury or an illness, right? No matter what, it's humbling. And there's gratitude in that humility, I think, and the fact that, you can still figure out a way to do it. No matter what the setback, no matter how big it is, you can still figure out a way around it. And that ability to problem solve, that ability to not only meet yourself where you are, but still complete the task, the goal at hand, even if it's feeding your horses one flake at a time, even if it takes a little bit longer, even if it's not as efficient, even if you look at the bag and you kind of roll your eyes, well, I could have done that yesterday. You know what I mean? It still doesn't matter, because you're still accomplishing. I remember seeing one of those memes online. It's never canceled. Mucking stalls is never canceled. It doesn't matter if you're sick. It doesn't matter if water isn't running in the barn. The horses are still going to go to the bathroom, right? And someone's got to clean that up, right?
Right.
And it's on us, as the human beings with opposable thumbs, to figure out how to go about doing that for them. And for ourselves. And I think that it's huge. And that's why I said certain disciplines, setting those small disciplines and forgiving yourself for, maybe you can't lift the bale of hay today. But you know what? You can still go through those motions and make it accessible for yourself. And I think that yoga is a great way to do that for people that are recovering from a physical injury. And if you're recovering from an illness, then you're going to have to kind of, again, find those small things that you can do, even when you can't do what you're used to doing.
Right. And be happy that you can do it the way you can, because it's exactly what I told my Minka girl, my little red healer. I said, we get her done. We just get it done in a different way than what we had been doing it. But we still accomplish it. It's just maybe, like you said, taking a little bit longer and just adjusting to it and being thankful that you can do it in a different way and that you have the ability to think of different ways to do it. And that brings in the creativity of your mind. If you just start thinking of, well, I can't do it this way, we got to figure out a different way to make it happen. And it comes to you. So, yes, so very true.
And, to that end, I think there are ways to support that. And, because I can't ever go without talking about crystals a little bit. I'm going to throw out just a couple recommendations for anyone that feels like they need a little bit of support from something sparkly on their journey. There are a couple crystals, one of which in particular that comes to mind is bloodstone, which is kind of like one that maybe a lot of people have not heard of, but for stability, for discipline, for grounding, bloodstone's another one. Think about kind of the red root chakra colors. Grounding yourself is most important. You want to think of those lower chakras for this, because essentially you're resolving. You might receive intuition on how to best move forward, but your resolutions are kind of coming from the ground up, right? Your recovery, it brings you back to zero, or brings you back to a level below, quote unquote, and I put that in quotes, where you thought you were going to be, where you thought you were. And again, it's humbling. So when you're thinking about that, think of your carnelian, think of your garnet, think of your lower chakra colors. Those are going to be the stones that are going to help you in your ability to keep that discipline for yourself. Keep yourself grounded. Keep yourself moving steadily forward, because it's all about those little incremental steps forward. And it's all about breaking things down into accessible pieces that you can then build upon to get back to. You might not even get back to exactly where you were. You might even do better. You might find out ways to be more efficient in the barn than you even knew you could be because of this injury. So there's always going to be, it's never about going backwards to where you were, quote unquote, where you thought you were. It's always about moving forwards from where you now are, at least for me. I think that is something, again, that people have to wrap their minds around. But a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to go back to the weight that I was, or, oh, I'm going to go back to what I could do before. No, you're going to go forward. You're going to go onwards and upwards. You're going to go forward to a new place, and it's going to be even more beautiful than where you came from.
Oh, definitely. Oh, Gia, that was so well said. Moving forward from where you are, I love that. Well, this show has gone so very quickly, which I knew it would, and it always does when you and I chat. And before we come to a close, would you please share with our listeners the best ways to connect with you?
Absolutely, Joyce. Thank you so much. So, again, my name is Gia Raquel. I'm owner of Airs Above Yoga, and I would love to help anyone and everyone who's looking for some support on their wellness journey for themselves or their four-legged furry friends. They have wellness journeys, too, I'm sure. So, again, you can find me at Airs Above Yoga on most social media. My website is airsAboveYoga.com, and it is the same at gmail.com, AIRSABOVEYOGA.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you so very much, Gia, for sharing this very knowledgeable information with our listeners today. And I want to wish you magical days until you and I connect again here on Robust Lifestyles.
Thank you, Joyce, so much for having me. It's always such a pleasure, and your insights are profound and grounded in such a wonderful way. And I hope that your shoulder is feeling much, much better, by the way.
Oh, it definitely is. And thank you so much for the kind words. Oh, it's so appreciated. Thank you so much, Gia.
You are welcome, my dear.
And with that, I want to thank all of our listeners for listening to this absolutely incredible, knowledgeable show with our amazing diva, Gia Raquel. Please share this show with your family and friends. Check out all the other hosts and their shows on divasthatcare.com. And remember some of the tips she gave you on resolutions and recovery. Life is a practice. Listen to your body and try to balance your life and meet people and yourself where they're at and where you are at. And remember, moving forward from where you are right now. And with that, I want to wish everyone a very magical day. Remember, be kind to all, including your animals. Give your animals that great big extra hug and share all your love with them as they so deserve it. Until we connect again on Robust Lifestyles, stay strong and healthy.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.